Hello and welcome to this video that probably nobody ever expected on this channel. Usually I'm just uploading my speedrun BBs here, but for the longest time I wanted to do a video about my most favorite character of all time. First because I think there are actually quite a few interesting things to talk about him, regarding his whole development history, and second because I have the feeling that there's quite some confusion about him as a character. Just straight up some warp perceptions. And as the self-proclaimed biggest fan out there, I wanna try and give people a better understanding. What character am I talking about? Well, for those of you who haven't been in closer chat with me yet, or that can't tell who this little bunny character on my profile picture is, I'm talking about Pink. I know. We might be looking at him and be like, what? This pink childish bunny with that very creative name. But trust me, there's more to that character than it seems at first glance. But to actually get a better idea and the vibe behind him, I think it's good to take a look at the game where he first appeared. Rayman Raving Rabbids. Probably the most controversial Rayman game out there. And yeah, a game that I don't think is that good. Which is kinda sad, because the original concept behind it is quite interesting in my opinion. I love open world type of games where you can run around, explore and collect things, here and there even kick some enemies in the face. Even the original idea behind the rabbits themselves is something I think is really cool. You know, instead of having this typical dangerous looking kind of villain, what if instead he had something that looks really cute and harmless at first, turned out to be quite evil and messed up. And the developers also knew which entity had to be used for this. Bunnies. So they came up with quite a few different designs that could follow this idea. Because yeah, the rabbits back then are supposed to have quite a few different variations, not only the one you can see nowadays. And there is one where you can really tell they tried really hard to follow this idea. Of course I'm talking about Pink. Because even though he may look kinda cute and harmless at first, because of his simple plush looking design, there can also be this little bit of unsettling feeling when you look closer at him. Like, you know, the same kind of vibe that lead to quite some horror content out there regarding dolls and stuff. Kinda if there's something creepy hiding underneath. And indeed, under this pink pure hides a lifeless killing machine that will do everything possible to fulfill its purpose. To destroy the eggplant. A killing machine that hides its true nature? That sounds like an idea I heard before. Yes, Pink is a Terminator parody. The game itself is even referred to as a Rabbit Terminator. What do you do with a Rabbit Terminator in a Rayman adventure game? Well, we can't really tell for sure. The only thing we can use as a reference is the leaked prototype, but there are only a few things we can speculate from. There exists this little introduction cutscene of him, for example, where he points a finger gun at you. Wow, very intimidating. There's also this placeholder soundtrack for a Terminator fight, as well as some written code within the Rabbit AI itself. He was sadly never placed on a map with this AI. But of course, this doesn't stop us from doing so. So let's see what the Rabbit Terminator has to offer. What is already kinda interesting is that he spawns in with a carrot gun by default, which, okay, I guess makes sense for a Terminator. What's more interesting though is those hordes that are flying around him. I guess they are there to make him look more cutesy and friendly at first, but I don't know. I mean, we know the deal behind him, so let's show this robot who is the boss. Once you deal the first critical hit to Pink is where the whole Terminator concept comes to play. He loses some fuel, as well as his eyes that's starting to glow red. And the circuits already go crazy. Well, since he's still determined to kill us, let's give him a few more punches. Once you do the second critical hit, as well as full robotic body gets exposed. And yeah, I'm not a fan how it looks like. I mean, it's the prototype, but the whole thing with the texture, even though it looks kind of horrific, is I don't like it that much. In the end, if you give him a few more punches, he will be defeated. But be careful, because he's gonna die in a huge explosion, so get away from him in time. And yeah, that's basically all there is to him. It's more or less just the visuals. And yeah, they look kinda neat for a prototype. Overall, I must say, it kinda gives me Rayman Raving Rabbids, where most of the enemies had their own introduction cutscene when you meet them the first time, as well as their own fighting track. So maybe some sort of way it could have been like a level matrix or a heckler, but we can't tell for sure. I think it would definitely have been cool if he would have been a boss, maybe with a few more rematches. But yeah, it's only wishful thinking. There exists this cool video from Maidegu that kinda shows a concept boss fight for him, the prototype. I kinda like the ideas here. He was placed on a robotic mount called the Quadrupod. She's also been placed in the final game. And yeah, I like to imagine how he would have used that mount to run around the web fast. Maybe try to attack you when you're not watching. And also here and there climb some buildings and throw some projectiles at you from there like a maniac. Would definitely make him a more unique encounter than just a rabbit with neat visuals. And yeah, overall I think that would have been really cool and fitting for him. But yeah, we were talking a lot about the prototype, and we all know it's not quite what we got in the end. And the same goes to Pink as well. I think the most notable change they did to him was his design. Like, it actually stayed the same at first. Like, he only lost his view, but it was just a general rabbit thing that was not related to him. Later on they actually changed him a bit more and actually decided to give him some fluffy fur again. And also turned his head into a Goomba. Also his eyes seem to have the same shape as the rabbit now. And yeah, in combination he looks really weird to me here. It's definitely my least favorite design of him. And I guess the developers were also not really happy with that. So in the final game he changed in more time. And now he looks like a creepy robotic rabbit skeleton. What may look like a completely new model here is actually not too far away from his prototype design than you may think. Because if you actually take it and put his final version over it, you can see with a little bit of size tweaking that he fits in there perfectly. And furthermore, if you actually just compare those two models with each other, you can definitely tell his final one is just a creepy robotic skeleton of his prototype exterior. If you take the Goomba head design again, you can actually tell that the design changes they made to him here were more or less to make his exterior blend better together with his endoskeleton. So I think it's more or less obvious that his endoskeleton here was hiding underneath one of his past exterior versions. I think that would have been perfect. Like, as much as I like his simple and wacky looking prototype design, I already mentioned the whole texture of robotic thing there was not really that great. And making it into an actual robotic skeleton model would have been so cool. Like, not only enhances it the Terminator vibes, given that the Terminator itself also had a creepy robotic skeleton of his exterior lying underneath. In combination, it makes its design look very unique, even though initially it's very simple. I love it. It's easily the best Robo-Rabbit design I've ever seen, and I can't believe that there are people out there who think his design is generally bad. Screw those people. But yeah, as much as I can say positive things about his general design, there's a big problem when it comes to the final version of Rayman Raving Rabbids. The endoskeleton is the only thing that exists there. Like, they completely cut the whole pink part out of him. Like, this character is supposed to be a Terminator parody, and you completely scrap that part out of him and thus destroy the whole concept and idea behind this character. Like, I'm definitely not the only one who got confused when playing this game for the first time. Looking up the name of him in the menu, see that he's called Pink. Like, just from his whole endoskeleton, this name seems so random. And then later you may look up some early renders of him and see like why he's actually called like this. But in the end you just have more questions in your mind. Like, why is his final design so much different? Like, nowadays it makes sense, yeah, but back then it was so confusing. You might be wondering why he's like this in the final game, and the answer to this is most likely the same why the game is not quite like it was supposed to be at first. And it's the whole thing that developers need to finish this game to make it a relaunch title, so they had barely any time to work with at the end. And since they still needed to figure out how they wanted Pink to look in the final game, especially with how they also changed the Rabbids in general, I think they just ran out of time to make this concept happen, so they thought it would just be easier to have him look like a robot from the start. Also fix like with the other robots, and might not be as weird to have like a pink rabbit out of nowhere, so can see why, and it's not a hate towards the developer. I must say, as much as the game in general is not all that great, if you consider all the pressure the developers had to work with, I think they still got a game done that's quite good under the circumstances. And honestly, I couldn't be glad that Pink, such as other characters like Jabbit, wasn't cut out entirely. So somehow you can be glad about it, and it's not like that usually you would notice that change anyway to be sad about it. But of course, now we have the prototype and know everything about him, as a big fan like me, it still feels like quite a butchering, to be honest. Unfortunately though, this final design with him constantly riding the spider mount can easily give the expression that the mount he is riding is actually his lower body part, which can look really weird. And I can say a lot of people, including me, actually thought that back in the days. And also like his renders for the menu and the wanted poster didn't make it any better. To say something positive though about the final version, I must say I definitely like the decision that they made him entirely mute, not like the prototype where he was supposed to have the Robo Rabbit sounds. Definitely fits him way more, and especially with how he just stares at you in the final game, really makes up that creepy robotic vibe quite well. Really like how the menu refers to this, making it show kinda like death is the only language he speaks. Quite clever, just that, and I don't know if it's just me, at least I saw a few other people out there that also take this menu entrance way too seriously, because it wasn't that obvious for me at first. But yeah, that's why I say here, no, it's just dumb ironic joke as most of the things in the menu and the game. But enough talking around. How was he used in the final game? The final game he appears as a boss in 2 of the bunny hunt levels. The first one being Bunnies Don't Rest in Peace, a spooky graveyard level, so quite fitting for Pink being a spooky robotic skeleton now. Can definitely use him quite well there, right? Well, the level starts and he enters the screen right away, without any introduction or anything, he's just there. And of course, if you see something like this enter the screen, first thing you're gonna do is try to shoot him down. But oh no, he has a force field that makes him invincible, whatever you gonna do now? Well, you won't get that answered very soon, and it's also not like you really need to worry about Pink. Just keeps running away from you until he reaches that hill where he stares at you and then he runs away again. I guess he still needs to figure out how he needs to kill Rayman, or he just wants the rabbits do his dirty job. What a true killing machine. And it will be like this for most of the level. So instead of Pink chasing you around the map, as you may expect from a Terminator, you're actually the one who hunts down Pink. Because I guess just by looking at him, Rayman knows he needs to destroy this machine before it unleashes more chaos. And yeah, honestly, it's fair to think that in the end you will reach this giant ruin. This is where the final showdown against Pink will play. Because he gathered all his courage now and finally decides to take in some action and throw some rockets at you. And what you need to do is take your plunger gun and shoot down those rockets so they reflect back to Pink. And this is how you damage him. yeah, in the end, just like every other boss. I must say though, the vibe is definitely here. I really like this graveyard environment, looks so cool. Also the music is a banger. Also, I must say, Pink for Justice Endoskeleton fits really well in here. Really makes up the creepy vibe of this level. Just kinda sad to me that he is so passive. Must say though, I think because of his design and his whole presence, how he just stares at you and always is kinda ominous around the level, was just something that made him stuck in my head. I think kinda the whole reason why this is my favorite bunny hunt level, even though I feel like I'm kinda alone with this opinion. There's still a few things though I wanna talk about. Like for example, what is wrong with his arms? They are like constantly clipping through his body. I guess I didn't pay attention to that. What I think is more interesting though about this first encounter is how much there is some sort of visualization of Pink getting damaged by the rocket. Because compared to his second encounter, he just eats the rockets if it would be nothing. In this first encounter, he gets knocked back by the rocket and plays a sound effect. Also his short circuits effect gonna play once you damage him. I don't know, in combination on how the fight plays, don't know if it's just me, but it really gives me the impression that he was supposed to have his exterior here. Like, I can really imagine how you would lose part of his view after every second rocket hit. And the more you climb the building, the more of his endoskeleton becomes visible. And at the end, I think it would have been also cool if he actually not gonna get destroyed right away. He rather would fall down the building. You would think that you defeated him. But no, in the end he gonna return. Just like the Terminator, he will be back. You understand? And yeah, the last encounter you would basically fight against this full robotic version. I don't know if it's just me, but I think that would have been really cool. Anyway, he returns in the final bunny hunt level. Bunnies aren't scared of the dark. And it's just like his first encounter. He appears right at the start. He stares right into your soul and then he runs away. That goes for the whole map, till the end where he shoots rockets at you again. But this time it comes with a catch. Instead of just firing one rocket at you at a time, he now fires even two. Yeah, I don't know. Sounds more interesting than it actually is. I mean, yeah, just a minigame collection, there's nothing crazy to be expected, but still, since he is some sort of final boss and final thing you have to complete before you can manage to escape your prison cell and finish the game, would at least expect kinda more. I don't know, the fight to me is really underwhelming to be honest. But yeah, that's all there exists for Pink. You can tell I'm not all that happy about it. I just think, just as the whole game itself, went way under its potential, what it could have been if they followed the original idea. Guess you would just hope that there exists a version out there who does that. And for those who are familiar, actually know that there are two versions out there who, unlike the retail version, are actual platformer games that try to follow the initial idea more in the end. And the versions I'm talking about is the DS and GBA versions. They are developed by two different developer teams. That's why they end up being different. So, who knows, maybe one of those versions used Pink better than the retail one. Let's have a look at the DS version first. Wait, he doesn't exist inside the DS version? They didn't use my boy in there at all? Well, big F to the DS version. Worst version of Rayman Raving Rabbids out there for sure. 0 out of 10. But yeah, at least the GBA version has my boy inside. And they definitely used him quite a bit different. Because inside the game he actually exists as a living being. Kinda like a subspecies to the rabbits. And you might be thinking like how this could happen. And I have two explanations for that. I think from the whole concept arts and the assets we can find within the prototype in the final version itself, think it's not far-fetched that the general concept design of Pink before being used as this Terminator character was meant to be used as a generic bunny at first. I mean, it wouldn't be the only occurrence where such a thing was reused for an actual character. Like, there are also the Butcher Rabbids that were actually turned into Sergei in the final game. So maybe it was just the same here for Pink. So maybe the GBA developers just went with this idea instead. Or, depending on what kind of information they got from the Konzu team, I can imagine that they straight up couldn't tell that Pink is supposed to be a robot. Would definitely not be impossible, so maybe it's just the wrong interpretation. Anyway, as I said, he appears in the levels of World 3 and 5. There he walks around from left to right. He attacks you once you get too close to him, and I think it looks kinda cute how he does it with his ears. And of course, in order to defeat him, you will try to punch him. But just as Sans, you will not just stand there and take it. You actually dodge your fist once you try to attack him. So, what you need to do is either attack him while he's not looking, or you prone so that on the way back the fist actually goes down and hit Pink like this. At least I think that's what you're supposed to do. I must say this enemy is kind of broken or not really consistent. Not sure if really all the Pink Rabbids are supposed to act like this, or if some of them are actually just walking around faster and not dodging your attacks at all. Some do so, but are just really incompetent, and some others are way too competent to do so. I don't know. Like, the whole concept even exists before in World 2 with the normal Rabbids. They completely act the same like Pink, just that they actually need 2 hits in order to be defeated and not 1. And still, Pink appears later in the game where things are supposed to be harder, even though he's actually kinda easier than these Rabbids. The game makes no sense, to be honest. He also appears in some other locations in this game, like for example in one of the shooting gallery levels. And also at the final boss, the rabbit mech kind of throws him as an attack towards you. And I don't know if I'm the only person on this earth, but the way how it just looks like how they are the Naruto running at you, it's so funny to me. I don't know why. But you know, the more interesting thing is that there actually exists a unique version of Pink inside the game as well. And oh boy, this character did a lot to the perception of Pink in general. He actually appears right at the start in the game, right before you would escape the Dark World. Kinda acts like a boss here, some sort of rabbit scientist I guess, with an eye patch. In this boss, you have to fight against his quote-unquote new toy. It's a mega anti-toon, kinda walks around and rushes towards you where you can hit him. And once you have destroyed it, you will actually defeat Pink, and that's all there is for this character. So yeah, he just really exists as a boss kind of character. And it's actually kinda interesting, because he's one of the only rabbits that actually talks in this game, compared to his Konzu version that's completely mute. And compared to his Konzu version, it was really kinda emotionless, lifeless. He is really like all impulsive, kinda really angry with their backstory they have. And in general, he is actually a living being here that invents robots. They're not an actual robot itself. So yeah, you can see it's quite a lot of difference between those two characters. But I think the big issue here is that, especially back in the days, that a lot of people got the impression that the Konzu version of Pink is actually missing quite a lot from the prototype, especially because of his design. And because of the GBA version that still has quite a bunch of stuff from the prototype inside, also has a unique pink rabbit in the game. I think a lot of people really thought that, yep, this is the missing counterpart of the Konzu version. This is what the personality and stuff would have been. This is the actual Pink from the prototype. But To be honest, I think the truth here is that this is a completely different character that was made up by the GBA developers. And to be honest, it doesn't even have an official name, this character. This eye patch Pink got referred to as Pink, but to be honest, he was never really given a name officially. I mean, yeah, the design inspiration here is of course obvious, but like, you can really tell nowadays with the leaked prototype and everything that this is nothing the console developers really intend for this character in the end. I mean, who knows, maybe at the very early stages of this game this character was supposed to be like this, like, of course we can't tell 100% for sure, but from what you know, this is nothing that would have really been for him. So really think that's just a character that the GBA developers created for that boss, kinda to make this mecha anti-tune that's probably morphing from the Phoenix prototype fit in more with the rabbits. Don't tell like he was invented by a rabbit, he's controlled by one, he's part of the rabbit, so it makes sense that he appears here. At least that's what I think. And I bet it's more or less there to make him look unique and give him more that evil kind of scientist vibe, you know. And I must say I really like how it looks, something to be honest. Really can't deny that I kinda like this design as well. And in general, don't get me wrong, don't think this is a bad character or anything. Like, I really like to think about this being like an alternate universe kind of Pink, where he's actually a living being that's evil and twisted as well, but more in terms of his personality and stuff. So even though I still really like it, even though I definitely prefer the prototype / console version, just really hope this art gives like better understanding for those two versions of him. Because I know how much has been thrown together there over time, even though the connection is really not there. And yeah, I think it became obvious throughout the entire video, I'm not the biggest fan of what they did to him in the final version, neither the console or the GBA one. Which is kinda sad, but still, I'm honestly glad he wasn't completely scrapped out. And even though he might not have been the best inside the final game, still can't deny that he left an impression for quite some people out there, especially like me. Which is honestly still impressive and in my opinion really shows how much potential there is for this character. Really makes you hope that they would have done something better for him in upcoming games. But yeah, I don't think I need to build up fake tension here. I think everybody knows he didn't appear anymore after the first title, which is kinda sad, but at the same way it's nothing new when you look at other Rayman games where a lot of characters, especially good ones, never appear again, because Ubisoft doesn't like to have consistency in the Rayman series for some reason. So yeah, guess nothing new, but then at the same time, especially for a big fan as me who's just starving for new content, it's so sad as well. And what comes on top of it is the thing that I also don't think there's really any sort of chance anymore for him to appear in future games. Because the thing is that Pink as a character just screams the Rayman 4 prototype. Like, really, he has so many different things that he combines that I really love about the Rayman 4 prototype, which really makes the Rayman 4 prototype so cool and unique to me. Like, it's just the general concept of the rabbits, from being cute to having that really dark side, from that really creepy but still cool looking robots take over the entire glade, from the movie parodies, from the different wacky looking rabbit designs, to just also the waste potential when it comes to the final version. Like, does everything so good. What can I say, it's just a peak character, okay? If it wasn't already clear enough throughout the entire video, I fucking love him, okay? He's still great. But that's just the issue when it comes to the rabbits nowadays. Because they don't really have the prototype vibes anymore. Like, yeah, there's the Up to Chaos, they can be funny if you like the humor, which I don't at all, to be honest. But yeah, they're missing all the cool machines and stuff from taking over the world, and what actually makes them even interested. They actually just look more cute and try to be funny, but it's just not for me. And even though I call a rabbit my favorite character of all time, I must say for the rabbit in general, they're just not really mine, at least not anymore. And that's just the whole thing, because especially in Sparks of Hope, where they're more like portrayed as heroes, Pink would feel so out of place, especially with his completely out of place looking creepy robotics design. Like, I can understand if they don't use him, and if they would use him, they probably need to butch him even further to kind of fit in the game. The point where I just would hope they just let him die for the better. So yeah, maybe it's just for the best he didn't return anymore. Well, at least when it comes to official media. Because if there's one thing I really love about the Rayman community as a whole, then it's the passion they have, even if there's like literally no official content out there for years. Not only for games in general, but also for their characters. And luckily Pink is part of that. It's still cool to see after all those absence for years and barely really used all that greatly in the final game, he still has its fans and people who draw fan art of him, which by the way I can't see enough, so everyone who likes to, please draw more fan art of him. There's one fan game out there in production that makes me quite faithful when it comes to the future of the character. I'm talking about Rayman Raving Rabbids Rabbids, a fan game that tries to recreate what the game could have been if the creators had all the time and resources to finish the game how they intended it to be. And of course, if you're talking about that, then Pink has to be in there, like everything else would be criminal. I can't say much regarding Pink to Rabbids because most of it is still supposed to be a secret. And stuff that you are allowed to know, you can actually look up in the social media accounts of Rabbids. So if you wanna get any update on the game, then just follow their social media accounts. What I can tell though, that's because I'm part of the team as well, is that once you're done with that game and you finished it completely, you better love this character. You have no other choice. But yeah, that's all there basically is for this video. Already take way longer than I expected it to be, and not gonna lie, I already tried to cut out some parts that would have been kinda unnecessary, so it could have been longer, but I hope at least with this kinda length, if it's fine enough for people to watch me yapping about my favorite character. So everyone who is watching until this point, thank you a lot. Before I end this video, I definitely wanna give a few shoutouts though to people that helped me creating this video. First I wanna give a shoutout to Rifter, who made this really cool thumbnail of this video. He's a chill guy and a great artist, so definitely check him out. Another person I wanna give a shoutout to is Sean, cause he kinda helped me proofread the script. Cause yeah, he's a person I think he knows the best about the RAM 4 prototype in his development history. So he definitely helped to correct me some things there. And definitely a huge shout out as well to my friends May the Groove and Zeta. They provided me quite a lot of footage you've seen in this video, and in general just supported me. So I'm really thankful for all of them that made the video even better at the end. Like, it could still be better, but to be honest, for a first video I hope this was good to watch. Like, you can definitely give me feedback. If it's not on the topic itself, you can just give me feedback in general on this video, because it's my first and maybe there are more to come in the future, even though I don't really expect there anything other than another speedrun PBs of mine. But yeah, that's all there is for this video. Just really glad I could finally give this character a video that he always kinda deserved in my opinion. But yeah, With that, I not only wish you a very nice Christmas and hopefully a good start into the new year, also wish everyone a happy 3rd anniversary of the Rayman 4 prototype, and thank you for watching this video, and until the next time, bye bye.